Nevada's billion-dollar marijuana industry is about to boom, with lounges set to open, and there's a need for more workers to be employed in the industry. But you have to get the green light from the state. Now, some industry leaders and one lawmaker are calling for change for those with marijuana-related felonies to have a chance to work.
I myself was charged with 2 cannabis felonies when I was 18 years old for possession and paraphernalia. I had less than a gram of cannabis. Helping people understand what a cannabis felon looks like is very important to us in changing that stigma. This industry was existing in a felonious category before.
Danny Baranowski faced felony marijuana charges at 18, and she says a plea deal changed her life. In her work with the Chamber of Cannabis, she advocates for those who were charged, convicted, and have criminal records in an industry that's now legal. At least one Nevada legislator is backing a push for change to expand who is eligible to work in Nevada's billion-dollar marijuana industry, those with cannabis-related felonies.
When Question 2 was passed, there was no social justice. And if you have a felony, you might not even be able to apply.
State Senator Dallas Harris of Clark County released this statement to Fox 5. Current law makes it unnecessarily hard to get a license to do business in the cannabis industry. With my bill, the Cannabis Compliance Board would still retain discretion over who receives a license. But a blanket ban preventing people with felony convictions from working in the cannabis industry shuts out too many people from making a good legal living here in Nevada. When you want to work in a dispensary or a lounge in Nevada, you must apply for an agent card with the Cannabis Compliance Board. You cannot be convicted of what's called a felony excluded offense, or Class A felony. Clark County's public defender website says Class A felonies can include murder, kidnapping, and drug trafficking.
It's really re-entry into being a productive community member of society. So we'd like to let the businesses decide on that.
President Tina Ullman says it's a crucial way for those convicted to find a job. Depending on the criminal record, it would be up to the marijuana business to decide who could work.
So many people were incarcerated, and what are we doing to provide any sort of reparations? Why not allow them the chance to work in the industry that really they were put away for?
Well, Fox 5 reached out to Republican Assembly and Senate members. Spokespersons for both chambers say they are both waiting to see the bill text first. We also reached out to Governor Lombardo's office. They also said they are waiting for the legislative process to play out and will respond as needed.